So Tony, you've asked a couple times about the cart I use for Lil Bit and how I get it on and off the cart at the side of the beach when she's not coming off her cradle. But before I do that, I need to explain a couple parts about Lil Bit for it to make sense. Lil Bit's arms are, cart arms are made out of 1-inch Schedule 40. These long pieces are about 2 foot long, one on each end. There's a standard 1-inch T in the middle and a 4-inch section here off the bottom. The key thing here, this is all glued together in the T. This piece is not glued, as you can tell. I've got it in my hand. There's 2 of these. They're both made the same way. I will tell you, if you don't put padding on here, you'll get rub off on your epoxy. Graphite or your paint will come off on the T-arms. The next piece with this is the actual, what I call the axle. It's a 1.5 inches. This particular piece is, I believe, 28 inches long. On each end there's a T. The top of the T has a 1-inch slip fit bushing in it, and the end, there's the 28-inch piece here. There's a 2.5-inch section that goes to a thread-on thread-off plug. If I can get it off here, go to the other end. That one's real tight. That holds the actual wheel. So the wheel itself, it goes onto a 1.5-inch threaded end. These are male caps, just a threaded cap like this. There's a 1/2-inch hole drilled in the center of the cap. Then there's a nylon bushing lock washer, or excuse me, nylon bushing lock nut, a washer. There are 2 washers in the middle. This is a 14-inch lawnmower tire picked up from Lowe's, a 1/2-inch by 3.5-inch long stainless steel bolt, and another washer on the end. I do have 2 washers between the cap and the wheel. What I've run into is that the washer tends to spin and eat away at the cap. This is an old one with probably, I'm going to say, maybe a total of 1 mile of moving the boat back and forth. What eventually happens, though, is it blows out the side like that. Your washers need to be checked regularly. I pay about 35 cents a piece for them. They will eventually deform over time. A little bit of grease on those 2 washers between them so that they spin freely is nice. Okay, that's the cart. Standard PVC glue cement. I used a combination of a chop saw and a hand saw to cut the parts to length. I find the way I pulled the measurements is I wanted the wheels to sit even under the chine of the boat, holding it up evenly from the middle. That way, worst case scenario, the boat would just fall and sit on the tires. But you'll have to figure that out, how you want that on your own. Okay. This is the cart fully assembled with the 2 arms set in the bushing tops there and the 2 wheels. The wheels are extremely tight, which is why it's not sitting down. Typically the cart will sit at an angle like that. Okay? And you'll see it a little bit. I was draining some water out of it, but I have to empty that out before I can give you the demo on how to load it. So the first important part is putting the trailer at roughly the center point. Once you get the boat up there, it's kind of tough. The area right in front of the oarlocks sockets is just about the perfect center point for moving a little bit around. I know she's a little bigger than yours, so you might have to be a little further forward or further backward. If I go much further forward from the oarlock sockets, she's drags tail down, which can be nice in some cases, but it's tough for getting her up and out of the ramps. If I go too far back, she's nose heavy, which puts a lot of pressure on me. Right around the oarlocks is just about perfect. Next thing you do once you get that done is you actually just remove one side of the cart. So what I've got now is the cart like this. I'm going to put the camera down here at a corner and then talk you through the next steps. I did a little bit of repositioning here, but it still gives you a good idea of what we have to do. Basically what we're going to do is lift the transom and then just rotate the boat over so it's sitting on top of the cart axle.
Now, at this point, an observer person would notice that I'm no longer even with where I had the boat positioned. I normally do that on purpose because it allows me to fine-tune exactly the angle. So what I now do is I just pull the nose over till I get it where I want to. Having an angle does prevent Lil Bit from rolling down the ramp when I'm trying to get her on here. So after aligning everything a little bit, you just lift it up and pull, and over she comes. I now need to move the camera to show you the other side. So now you can see how she's sitting on the axle with the one tire up on the side. This is the hardest part where we put the other side in. So what we do is we grab by the rub rail, lift, put the cross member in, or excuse me, the bed in, bunk, and then set it back down. The next critical part is just kind of centering everything a little bit. So everything kind of sits in the middle. And then put on your cushions. I use these cut up pool noodle pieces. The small pool noodles, the inside's just a little bit too small. You really want the bigger ones. But you got to be careful. Some of the big ones, the center is just too big. The only other thing that remains is to strap her onto the cart. I use a simple ratchet strap for that. Keep the strap in front of the oar lock. Go around the back of the axle, underneath the bunk, underneath the axle, then up over the oar lock on the other side. Make sure that your straps stay in front of the oar lock socket, bracket, at least in my case. That prevents the strap from sliding off. The wrap around the axle, which I'll show you in just a second, allows me to just pull as hard as I need to on the breast hook to pull her up the ramp. And there you go, she's on. And here's a simple view of the ratchet strap. There you see how it wraps around the axle once, and how it comes back around on the front of the post on that side. And to give you an idea of how she sits in the middle, she's a little off to one side, but it generally doesn't matter. And now I'm just going to move her for you so you can see how easy it rolls on that setup. That's it. That's how I set it up. That's how I move it around. You will find on occasion you have to reset the bunk pieces. They tend to wander, especially if you're going over bumpy ground or you're pulling hard up a ramp while turning. The biggest issues I have is the axle coming out of alignment, so I often have to come back and set it back up.